Neighbors chat with me daily in the community and ask me to help pick up express delivery and take out the trash. One day, after I refused, he scolded me crazily in the group. The next day, his grandson disappeared from the building. Shoes are placed at the door of my house, and clothes are dried on the balcony of my home. But, I never went home. Hey Carol, help me get the express delivery, 4 in total. There is some trash left at your door, throw it away. Bring a meal when you come back tonight. Don't let it get cold. As soon as I woke up, 3 orders for me appeared in the community group. I rolled my eyes and typed my rejection. Hello, I have to go to work and it's not convenient for me to help. If you can't throw away the trash, you can contact the property management company. I'm not obligated to help you pick up express delivery or buy food. The person on the other side seemed to be guarding his cell phone, and as soon as he saw my refusal, he immediately started to kidnap me morally. Oh, everyone, come and see, this young girl has a vicious heart. She wants me to die of illness at home. It's really hard for us, grandfather and grandson, to live at home. Then there is a voice message that lasts for 60 seconds. Mixed in the middle were the cries of children, and their voices were extremely hoarse. I knew I couldn't compromise. Because this is not the first time. 5 days ago, after they get sick, they have been asking me to bring couriers and buy food. I thought I was doing a good thing, but unexpectedly he said that the food I bought was cold and that he would kill his grandson. The next day I refused his request and he was wailing in the group. Countless owners spoke for me and asked me to take more care of my neighbors. I couldn't resist it, so I had to agree. As a result, he had 6 express delivery items that day, and I got 1 less. He called me a thief in the group for stealing his express delivery. For stealing their life-saving medicine. Until I ran to the express pickup station, took a video, and sent it to the group to tell him that there was another express that I just couldn't get. He showed no shame at all and continued to blame me in the group for why I took less express delivery. After that, no matter what he told me in the group, I refused. But he seems to have his eye on me, and he still tags me in the group every morning and gives me a lot of orders. I turned off my phone, went out to work, and ignored him. Because there were few people in the company, I worked overtime until 3 in the morning. I was so sleepy that I opened a hotel next to the company and slept there. When I woke up the next day, I found that there were a lot of people tagging me. I clicked in and found that everyone was asking me to return his grandson. I looked through the chat history with a confused look on my face, and replied angrily, I've been at work all day, and I've never seen your grandson. Where he went has nothing to do with me. My message silenced the group for a moment, and someone started speaking up for me. Uncle John, have you misunderstood? Is the child hiding somewhere for fun? Look under the bed or in the closet to see if you can find it. Is it hiding somewhere? Uncle John replied instantly in the group, no way, I saw my grandson going out with my own eyes. At this time, Uncle John sent another picture, which was taken from the angle of his door. The photo was taken at the door of my house. His grandson's shoes were neatly placed at the door. This is proof. My grandson's shoes are at your doorstep. If you don't hand over the person, I'll report you for human trafficking. The moment I saw the picture, my heart skipped a beat. Then I thought that maybe he was setting me up by leaving the shoes at my door. A pair of shoes proves nothing. Before I sent out my explanation, another picture was posted in the group. I zoomed in on the picture and my pupils suddenly shrank. This photo was taken from my balcony. What is drying on the balcony is a set of children's clothes. How is this possible? I have always lived alone and have no children at home. I didn't go home last night either. What the hell is going on? The person taking the photo was Jenny, the household across from me. As far as I know, she is divorced and lives alone, so is it possible that the child went to her house? But the shoes and clothes are in my house, which makes no sense at all. Seeing the incident getting more and more serious, I decided to let myself go. Call the police. I'll call the police. The police arrived quickly and I followed him upstairs while explaining the situation. After the officer knew about the situation, I entered the password and opened the door. As soon as he entered the room, there was a pungent smell of alcohol. My face was pale and cold sweat was pouring from my back. No, there is no alcohol in my house. I didn't spray it. The officer looked at the room warily immediately. I followed him cautiously. Obviously, I was in my own home, but it felt very strange. It's not right, many things are wrong. My house is usually not tidy and I habitually leave things everywhere. But I know exactly where things are. Just like the teacup on the table, I always like to place it on the outside of the table so that it is easiest to pick up and drink water. Most people are afraid of breaking the cup, so they put it near the table. Someone else came to my house. I blurted out. The officer nodded to show that he understood, and then we checked all the rooms vigilantly. There was no sign of anyone. Every room has been disinfected, and the only things related to Uncle John and his grandson are the shoes at the door and the set of clothes on the balcony. Who broke into my house and left these things behind? Why did that person frame me? I'll contact the property company to check the surveillance. The officer said. I quickly followed. Take me with you, I don't dare to be alone. There is a surveillance camera at the end of the corridor, stairwell, and elevator room on each floor of our community. However, the surveillance in the corridor has been dark these days. I kept digging until I discovered that Uncle John's grandson damaged the surveillance system 5 days ago when he was playing with a water gun. There may be damage in the line, causing the black screen. No children were found in the stairwells or elevators. At this moment, a video was posted in the community group. I clicked on the video, screamed, and dropped my phone. On the balcony of my house, there is a head hanging, swaying with the wind. Surprisingly, he is Uncle John's grandson. The group was filled with the sounds of Uncle John's criticism. A murderer must forfeit her life, give me back my grandson. I grabbed Officer Lu's sleeve tightly, we have always been together, it must not be me. Officer, you have to believe me, you are my witness. Carol, I understand how you feel at the moment. I will truthfully tell them what I know. I cannot guarantee that you are innocent in specific cases. Everything depends on the evidence. After saying that, Officer picked up the mobile phone I dropped on the ground, added him as a friend, and pulled himself into the owner group. Everyone, I am Officer, who is in charge of this case. Carol has been in the property room with me just now. Please don't spread rumors. The police will announce the latest results after investigating the case. With Officer's words, the group finally became quiet. What I didn't expect was that Uncle John still caught me and wouldn't let me go. You guys are a gang? You are working together to bully our grandfather and grandson. She has long disliked my grandson. The food she brought to my child last time was all cold. My child is so young and has a high fever all the time. Isn't this an intentional attempt to kill him? She still won't get us express delivery. Those are the life-saving medicines I grabbed online. I know, she must have killed my grandson because she didn't want to help. My poor little grandson is only 5 years old. The series of messages made my brain so angry that I would yell back while holding my phone. The officer stopped me from arguing in the group. No matter how much you explain to him, it will be meaningless. You'd better stop talking in the group. As long as you are innocent, the police will find out the truth. After being teased like this, I wasn't that angry anymore. No matter how much you argue with such an unreasonable old man, you will never win. What's more, what if I win the argument and he blackmails me? While talking, supporting police officers arrived. Before the head was found, this was still a disappearance case, but now it has become a murder and dismemberment case. I followed the officer closely and would not leave no matter what he said. They searched my room. Seeing that I was following him every step of the way, the officer started questioning me. Carol, there are no signs of the door being broken open, so the murderer knows the password of your home. Moreover, the murderer must be among your group of owners. He knows that you have conflicts with Uncle John's family. Owner group, neighbors, password. I shout, Jenny. Jenny knows my password. Is she the murderer? I trembled all over and held on to the police officer. Jenny has the password to my home. She is very warm-hearted. It rained heavily last week. She asked me if I needed help collecting clothes. I brought her home and told her the password. But it shouldn't be her. She's such a nice person. Even if she is the murderer, she won't frame me. It definitely won't be her. I'll think about it again, I'll think about it again. The officer nodded to indicate that he understood. As soon as he got up, I knew he was going to leave me here and find Jenny. Take me, take me. You can't leave me alone. I said. Nonsense. I don't care, you have to ensure my safety. That old man is threatening to kill me to pay for his life, you can't leave me. Seeing that I was really scared, the officer had to warn me not to speak casually. Soon we arrived at Jenny's house. Just as we were about to knock on the door opened automatically. It was as if the people inside were always paying attention to our movements. Jenny, as the first person who discovered the body, we are just here to make a routine inquiry. Just say whatever you know. She nodded and handed us 2 bottles of mineral water. These past few days, there has been a lot of commotion in the group. I was very worried about Carol, so when I was drying my clothes in the morning, I looked at the opposite side a few times. Unexpectedly, there were children's clothes hanging on the empty balcony last night. At this time, Uncle John in the group said Carol took his child away, so I subconsciously took a photo and posted it in the group. Officer Lu nodded and continued to ask, then where were you last night? When Jenny heard this, her eyes suddenly turned red. What do you mean? Do you think I am a murderer? Where can I go at night? I just sleep at home. Before the officer asked further questions, she answered, of course, no one can prove that I slept at home alone. Jenny, don't get flurry. These are just procedures, I don't mean to doubt you. After briefly comforting him, Officer Lu then asked, how did you sleep last night? Did you hear anything? Jenny was stunned when the officer asked this question, and after a while, she said, I usually sleep deeply, but last night I heard the noise next door. I don't know what it was doing. Boom, boom, boom. I held my breath and dared not move. Various possible guesses flashed through my mind. But I feel lucky. Does this prove that Jenny is not the murderer? The officer then asked, how long did the sound last? Jenny recalled her memory, who can remember this? I was half awake and half asleep at the time, and I didn't look at my phone. Do you know the password of Carol's house? This time she answered directly, I don't know. Hearing this, I subconsciously looked up, with surprise on my face. The officer noticed my reaction and asked me, Carol seems to have told you the password. Jenny was stunned and handed the phone over, it seems that there is such a thing, but I have the habit of deleting chat history, and there is no password in the phone. And I didn't remember it specifically, and I don't know the current password of Carol's family. After questioning for a long time, nothing came out, so the officer had no choice. We prepare to leave. The moment he opened the door, a ray of silver light hit his face. The officer quickly pulled me back 2 steps with quick eyes and hands. Kill to pay for your life. My poor little grandson is only 4 years old. Why are you so cruel? I will kill you to pay for my grandson's life. It was Uncle John, who was seeking revenge on me with a kitchen knife. The officer frowned and asked sternly, Uncle John, the case has not been fully investigated yet. If you do this again, we have the right to detain you back to the bureau. Even with officer's warning, the uncle still stared at me with resentment in his eyes. At this moment, a policewoman came out of the elevator carrying a box and walked straight to the officer to report the latest progress to him. It turned out that the remaining body parts of the grandson were found in the sewer of the community. The forensic doctor initially determined that he died of heart palpitations caused by drugs. This woman must have done it. She poisoned my little grandson and even cut him into pieces. You hurry up and take her away. Avenge my little grandson. The officer almost couldn't stop the emotional Uncle John, and quickly called 2 people to pull him back to the bureau for education. I hid behind officer for the rest of my life, my legs trembling so much that I could hardly stand. I almost got hit. With this fuss, even a thin layer of sweat broke out on officer's forehead. On the entire 6th floor, only one neighbor house 301 was left without questioning. The man living in house 301 is a gambler, so it stands to reason that he would not be able to hear such a loud noise. Normally, he would have come out to join in the fun. The officer left me where I was, walked to house 301, and knocked on the door. Hello, the police are investigating the case. Please open the door and cooperate with the investigation. However, after knocking for a long time, there was no response. When I saw this, I took out my mobile phone and called the property management company, asking them to bring someone to open the door. The female police officer quickly scolded me, that's nonsense. Anyone who has nothing to do with it should leave the scene immediately. I shrank my head and felt a little aggrieved, he often drinks too much and hasn't opened the door for so long. I'm afraid something happened to him. After hearing my words, the officer frowned even more and asked, how long will it take for the property to arrive? We'll be there in 5 minutes. The property came faster than expected. As soon as the door to the room was opened, the strong smell of alcohol filled the air. Oops. The officer cursed and rushed in directly. I stood at the door and peeked in. The room was spacious and empty with almost no extra furniture. The ground was a mess, with medicines, masks, bloody gloves, and blood-stained protective clothing scattered everywhere. There was a male corpse lying on the table in the middle of the living room. Foaming at the mouth, face ashen, eyes open but unfocused, he looked dead. I covered my mouth and kept retching. If I hadn't remembered that I was wearing a mask, I would have vomited all over the floor. Jenny brought me a bottle of water and patted my back gently. Ben is dead, shouldn't you be happy? I took the water and drank it in big gulps. After a moment, I finally recovered. Instead of answering her question, I asked, aren't you scared? Jenny raised his hand and smoothed my hair, if you are more afraid, you will naturally stop being afraid. Her cold fingers traced my face, which was a gentle movement but made my skin crawl. I didn't dare to answer the question and continued to hold the water while trembling. She chuckled slightly when she saw this, left a pack of tissues, and returned to the room. It wasn't until the body was taken away that the 6th floor became quiet again. I saw a lot of police officers leaving, and the owner group became active again. I heard that Ben from room 301 is also dead. Is it Carol who killed him? I remember Ben made a rumor before that Carol was being kept, and this matter made a big fuss. From the grapevine, I heard that Jenny's divorce was due to Ben's rumors. His mouth has offended a lot of people. If you ask me, this is retribution. The news scrolled up one after another, and the only thing left in my mind was, that Jenny got divorced because Ben spread rumors. Ben is an unemployed vagrant. He drinks at home and goes out to gamble every day. Every time he bumped into a woman in the community, he would stick to her and take advantage of her. If you don't obey him, he will spread rumors. Because I wore a short skirt once before, he told me in the community the next day that I was being kept by someone. I went out early and came back late every day, and even didn't come back many nights. With all my conscience, I am only on a business trip. Officer, I. As soon as I shouted out, I felt a little regretful. If it was Jenny who killed him, they would be able to find out even if I didn't tell him. What if Jenny knew it was me who said it? Thinking back to the cold and smooth touch just now, I shivered again and drank 2 sips of water to calm down the shock. While drinking water, my eyes suddenly met the camera on the ceiling. The footage I saw in the surveillance room flashed through my mind. No. The surveillance may not have been destroyed accidentally by the grandson. I rushed to Officer, Officer, can I take a look at the surveillance camera again? The officer glanced at me, what did you find? I bit my lip, I just have a guess. The officer saw my hesitation and reassured me, don't worry, we will protect your safety. Regardless of whether your guess is true or not, it is a direction for our police to investigate the case. Only then did I express my inference. I've been thinking about why grandson used a water gun to spray surveillance, and just now I thought of it. In the last section of surveillance, did the grandson not return to his house 304? If he wanted to go back, he didn't need to turn around at all. Just keep walking forward. Does this mean that the murderer might have used him to destroy the surveillance? After the officer heard this, he decisively called someone to confirm from the monitoring room. As I said, in the last few seconds of surveillance, you can see the grandson turning around and walking forward. And there are only house 301 and house 302 in that direction. The officer sighed, but the surveillance camera went dark too quickly. I just saw Uncle John's grandson turn around. It's possible that the child was just having fun and didn't want to go back for a while. I nodded repeatedly, what you are saying is that I am overthinking it. It's okay. The officer pointed to the cell phone I was holding tightly, did you call me for something else? I hesitated for a moment and handed the phone to officer. Someone in the owner group is discussing that Ben caused Jenny's divorce. But Jenny is a very nice person. She has always taken good care of us. She didn't kill the person. I hurriedly explained. Okay, we will conduct a detailed investigation on the rest. Thank you, Miss Zhao, for your cooperation. If I have any questions about the rest, I will come back to you. After the officer finished speaking, he pressed the elevator button and prepared to leave. Then a phone call came in. There was a female voice on the other end of the phone, probably the policewoman she had met before. She reported to the officer, Ben died of suffocation due to drinking after taking cold medicine. The blood stains in his room were indeed his grandson's. It is very possible that he accidentally killed his grandson and then drank himself to death. As soon as I heard this, the elevator arrived. The officer quickly walked into the elevator and left. I calmed down for a while, then turned around and went home. I went to bed early as my nerves were tense all day. Faintly, I seemed to hear the door opening. Then the footsteps got closer and closer, becoming clearer and clearer. I hurriedly crawled under the bed and huddled up, not even daring to breathe out. Cold sweat covered my forehead, making me feel chilly. Who is it, who is coming to my room? Could it be that Uncle John came to seek revenge on me? A person in white clothes slowly appeared in front of my bed. Under the moonlight, I saw a knife in her hand. The bright silver blade reflected Jenny's face. I was so frightened that I rolled my eyes and fainted. When I woke up again, I lay back on the bed, and Jenny was sitting in front of my bed. I gasped for air and tried my best to explain, let me go, I don't know anything and I didn't tell the police anything. She held up the knife and gestured in front of me as if she was thinking about where to start. The air was so quiet that it made me suffocate, and then she spoke, do you think Uncle John's grandson deserves to die? I opened and closed my mouth, and finally said dryly, he is just a child. Jenny sneered when he heard my answer, do you think I was the one who killed him? You should know how Uncle John's grandson died. I didn't dare to respond to her words, so I just lowered my head and pretended to be dead. Jenny talked to himself, the grandfather and grandson are greedy for petty advantages and block the door every day to ask for medicine. If you don't give it to them, he will threaten you and take off your mask to spit at you. I have no choice but to compromise and give him some medicine every day. The same goes for Ben from house 301. He bought some medicine for them every day. And last night, Uncle John's grandson had a severe fever and kept crying and fussing. He ate all the medicine we gave. I concluded with difficulty, so, the child was drugged to death by his grandfather himself. Jenny casually put the knife into my hand. The cold blade made me a little uneasy. She continued, he came to us with his children and said that there was something wrong with the medicine I gave him, and he wanted us to compensate him 3 million. You should have called the police directly at that time. I cursed angrily. Jenny gave me a meaningful look. The situation at that time was very confusing. Uncle John insisted that we were the ones who killed the child. Just when we were in a stalemate, Ben proposed a new plan. I swallowed hard. The plan he proposed is not to make me a scapegoat, right? Yes, not entirely. He divided the body into 3 parts, and each one can find someone else to take the blame. Jenny's tone became more serious. I couldn't stop them, so I had to take them back. I just wanted to create public opinion and get you to pay, but I didn't expect you to call the police directly. Now that the police have been called, grandson's body parts can't be left with me, and the rest you know it too. I was silent for a while and then asked, then how did Ben die? Jenny's face was full of disgust. He probably drank himself to death. By the time I finished cleaning up your house and went over, he was already lying in the living room and died. So when the officer came to ask questions, I said everything on Ben. I didn't expect that the truth of the matter was like this. She squeezed my hand and raised the knife. Do you believe me? If you think I am the murderer, just use this to kill me. Her voice was very soft as if she was talking to herself, but it reached my ears. My hand holding the knife trembled helplessly, and my heart was beating fast. Her eyes were as black as gems, sparkling and full of bewitchment. I let go and the knife fell onto the bed without any sound. I believe you. I summoned up the courage to ask again, are you worried that I will talk to the officer? She suddenly laughed inexplicably, picked up the dropped knife, and put it casually into her bag. You will not. I laughed and sent her away. After she left, I put away the fear on my face and changed from the timidity I had during the day. Biting the fingers helplessly. Does Jenny know something? She seems to be testing me. Does she know that I was the one who killed Uncle John's grandson? The next day, I was woken up by screaming in the hallway. I was startled, jumped up from the bed, quickly got dressed, and rushed out the door. I saw the property fell to the ground, and the door of house 604 was wide open. Uncle John was lying in the entrance hall, blood covering the floor. Officer arrived. Carol, we suspect that you are involved in Uncle John's death. You have to come with us to the police station. After sitting in the interrogation room for who knows how long, the officer finally opened the door and walked in. He handed a file in front of me. Let's take a look. This was an accidental death case a year ago. You didn't live alone. You had a grandfather. But a year ago, he had an accident when he was helping Uncle John pick up the express. He fell down the stairs and died on the spot. Because there was surveillance, the case was quickly closed. But you have a grudge against Uncle John. Logically speaking, you should never interact with their family, but you bring them express delivery for a few days after they get sick. Stop, I interrupted him. What happened to my eagerness to help with the express delivery? He forces me in the group every day, what can I do? If I don't help, he will morally kidnap me. The officer took a sip of water and continued, you not only helped him pick up the express delivery but also bought him medicine, right? You told him to take more medicine if he felt uncomfortable and to swallow more antipyretics if he had a fever. Just fine. I didn't answer, just sat quietly. The officer was not upset and continued to describe the case. You thought it would be Uncle John died. After all, he was old and it was normal for him to die after taking too many medicines. However, the accident still happened, and it was Uncle John's grandson who died. I'm still silent. My silence made officer explode. You are betting, you are taking advantage of this situation. Do you think you are not killing someone? Listening to his increasingly high-pitched voice, I still didn't speak. The interrogation room was almost silent for more than 3 minutes. The officer calmed down again. He sat upright and continued to ask, so last night you killed Uncle John with a knife again, completing your original goal. Finally hearing the words I wanted, I relaxed my tight back and leaned back on the chair, to tell the truth that Jenny told me last night. Since Uncle John got sick, he has asked me to do everything, as if it were a matter of course. I was so angry at the time that I told him to stock up on more medicine and take more medicine if he felt uncomfortable. I didn't want him to die, I just wanted to teach him a lesson. But things soon went out of control. After listening to my words, he asked his grandson to ask the neighbors for medicine every day. If the neighbor didn't give it to him, he would knock on the door with his children and make trouble. You should have known by now that he fed grandson too much medicine, but blamed Jenny and Ben and held them responsible. Ben is just a gangster. He proposed dismembering the body and everyone looking for a scapegoat. So the first target they threatened was me. When I thought about Uncle John's attitude towards killing me today, I decided to strike first. Unexpectedly, when the officer heard this, he changed his previous statement and asked in a cold voice, Who are you protecting? I didn't. You can go check that knife, it has my fingerprints on it. We checked and it was your fingerprints. But the knife edge was inserted into the heart from bottom to top. Your fingerprints are facing down, so that's not the person you killed. Our conversation became more and more anxious. No matter how much I admitted it, the officer insisted that I was not the murderer. Just when I was about to collapse, the familiar policewoman knocked on the door and walked in. She didn't shy away from me at all. The 2 corpses were fully reported yesterday. Ben died before Uncle John's grandson. Dead before. The officer reacted, "Are you covering up Jenny? Where's Jenny?" I bit my nails and didn't reply to him. Finally, the police stopped Jenny at the high-speed rail station. After she was brought back, she said nothing and only asked to see me. I entered the interrogation room, looked at her, and asked, "Why didn't you run? Why did you kill Uncle John for me?" She laughed to herself. "Carol, because you have a good life, God is taking care of you." Is my life good? Since moving to this community, my grandfather has been ordered around by his neighbors for the sake of neighborly relations, and the most powerful one is Uncle John. He always said that if we have a better relationship, someone will be able to take care of me when he is gone. But after he leaves, Uncle John will only rely on his old age to boss me around. And Ben made empty rumors and countless people in the community looked at me with contempt and ridicule. What kind of fate do I have? Just when I was about to collapse emotionally, officer patted my shoulder and pulled me back from my memories. He handed the report in his hand to Jenny and pulled me to sit down. "You killed both Ben and Uncle John, right? We checked the scene again and found your fingerprints in the kitchen of Ben's house, which means you have entered his house." The cut section of the grandson's body was incomplete, the meat was cut into very fine pieces, so the person who cut the body apart was you, and it was caused by your lack of strength. We found many dishes that Ben had eaten remained on Ben's stomach. We only need to check your consumption record to know whether you bought them. There are other things I won't explain one by one. You can just read the autopsy report. Jenny handed back the autopsy report, her voice a little hoarse. I was the one who killed him. I knew they would find me sooner or later. It's a pity that I didn't run away. I hung my head and pointed out the reason, if you don't kill Uncle John for me, you can run away. Jenny spread his hands and shrugged, so I say you are lucky. She didn't look at me again after that and told the truth about all this. Memories of the incident, narrated from Jenny's perspective. Half a year ago, I was walking in the park. Uncle John's grandson bumped into me and he kept crying. Other people thought I was the mother of the child and asked me to take care of him. I had no choice but to squat down and hug him. Unexpectedly, he suddenly kicked me in the stomach, and I almost fainted from the pain. I struggled to get up, but he stretched out his foot and tripped me. After falling, I accidentally pressed on my abdomen. At that moment, severe pain swept through the whole body. Blood flowed down my calf and soon stained my clothes and pants. And Uncle John's grandson had already disappeared. After I am discharged from the hospital, I want him to apologize to me. Apologize to my unborn child. However, what I didn't expect was that during this period, Ben would spread rumors in the community, saying that I lost the child because I went out to have sex with others. I tried to find him, but I couldn't find anyone several times, and the rumors got worse and worse. My neighbors kept pointing at me when they saw me, and my mother-in-law even pointed at me and scolded me. Finally, my husband divorced me and I had nothing. It's all their fault, I swear I will take revenge. But there is a huge disparity in strength between men and women. Ben is not I can easily provoke. Until that day, I saw Carol bringing medicine to Uncle John. She told him, if you have a fever, take more medicine. If you swallow a few more pills, you will feel better. When I heard this, I knew her purpose in an instant. She wanted Uncle John to take medicine and die. Just like that, I got inspiration and I knew how I should take revenge. In the evening I found Ben and bought him wine. I told him that I had figured out want to be with him and bought him a drink to celebrate. As I thought, he never refused to drink wine, even if he knew he had taken medicine. After that, I took the boiled lemonade to Uncle John. His grandson has been spoiled since he was a child, crying and fussing all the time when he has a fever. I took the opportunity to emphasize again, take more anti-fever medicine. The current medicine is too ineffective, you have to give the child a few more pills. I still have a lot, the fever may be gone. Things were going very smoothly. Originally, all of this would have been an accident caused by swallowing too much medicine. But I didn't expect that Uncle John was greedy. He had to wade through this muddy water. He wanted Carol to take the blame and compensate his grandson. I had no choice but to follow him and pretend to conspire with Ben to dismember the body. In the morning, he started shouting in the group that Carol had killed someone. I was responsible for taking photos and posting them in the group to intimidate her. But I didn't expect that she quickly called the police and I didn't have time to leave. When asked, I had no choice but to blame everything on Ben. I knew he had a bad reputation, and as long as the police investigated him, I could take the opportunity to leave. Uncle John, come out, and let's talk. Uncle John, who was arrogant during the day, stayed behind closed doors. I knew that this old man had doubts about me. If you don't come out, I will shout directly to the owner group, grandson was killed by his grandfather. Creak. The door to the room opened. Uncle John scolded me with a dark face, what are you talking about? Carol killed my grandson. I snorted coldly, you know exactly who killed him. What are you going to say? We are on the same boat. Uncle John retorted, his eyes bursting with endless murderous intent and anger. Do you think Ben died in an accident? My words stunned Uncle John. He had just thought of this and was about to close the door in panic. I don't know what you're talking about. His voice was trembling, without his usual arrogance at all. I pressed against the door and said one last thing, Ben is dead, can you still live? When you think about it, it's all your fault. You killed your grandson, and Ben died because of you. Even if you die, you deserve it. Uncle John's old body trembled, and I took the opportunity to squeeze in and stab him in the heart. You. As soon as Uncle John finished speaking, he died. I pulled out the knife and threw it aside. I didn't clean up the crime scene and just left. After Jenny confessed, the officer asked me why I wanted to take the blame for Jenny. Maybe it's because I want to kill Uncle John, but I never have the guts. If I bear the crime, I will avenge my grandfather. The officer was stunned. He warned me, good and evil are only in your one decision, I hope you will never have the courage. After he left, I was detained in the bureau for a week and received a week of education. The details of the case were omitted and posted online to educate the public on drug use regulations on a large scale. The community was quiet again, and no one spread rumors anymore. No one is morally kidnapped, and all the life difficulties caused by the illness are left to the property management. Everything is going in the right direction. Public security is the same, and so is the disease. The end.